There are certain places that feel familiar the moment you step into them, even if you've never been there before. A hallway that seems just a little too long, a door that feels like it has always been part of the house, a corner that your eyes keep drifting back to without knowing why. Most people ignore these feelings, brushing them off as coincidence or imagination. But sometimes those small inconsistencies are not mistakes. Sometimes they are clues. Ethan Cole had never believed in things he couldn't explain. He was the kind of person who trusted structure, routine, and logic. So when he moved into his new apartment in a quiet part of the city, he expected nothing more than a simple, predictable life. The building itself was old but well maintained, with narrow hallways, muted lighting, and a quietness that most residents seemed to appreciate. Nothing about it stood out as unusual, at least not at first. For the first few days, everything felt normal. Ethan unpacked his belongings, settled into his routine, and quickly adjusted to the calm atmosphere of the building. The neighbors were distant but polite, the nights were quiet, and the walls, though thin, carried only the occasional echo of footsteps or doors closing somewhere down the hall. It wasn't until the end of the first week that he noticed something strange. He was returning home late one evening, his footsteps echoing softly as he walked down the hallway towards his apartment. The overhead lights flickered slightly, something he had come to expect in older buildings. But as he reached the halfway point, he slowed down. There was a door where he didn't remember one being before. Ethan stopped. He was certain the hallway had been empty the last time he walked through it. He had passed this exact spot dozens of times already, and there had never been a door there. Yet now, standing between two familiar apartments, was a plain wooden door, painted the same dull color as the others, with a simple metal handle and no number. At first, he assumed he had simply overlooked it before. It wasn't impossible. The building had many similar doors, and it was easy to lose track of small details when everything looked the same. Still, something about it felt out of place. He stepped closer. There was no sound coming from the other side, no light beneath the door, no indication that anyone was inside, just silence. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then shook his head and continued walking. It wasn't his apartment, and there was no reason to be concerned. Old buildings had quirks, that was all. But the next night, the door was gone. Ethan slowed as he reached the same spot, his eyes scanning the wall carefully. There was nothing there now, just a blank stretch between two apartments, exactly as he remembered from before. He frowned. For a moment, he stood there, trying to make sense of it. Had he imagined it? That didn't feel right. The image of the door had been too clear, too detailed to dismiss so easily. Still, there was no sign of it now. No frame, no handle, no mark on the wall, nothing. Over the next few days, Ethan found himself paying closer attention to the hallway. Each time he left his apartment, each time he returned, he looked for any sign of the door. But everything remained unchanged, until one night it appeared again. This time, Ethan didn't hesitate. The moment he saw it, he walked straight toward it, his focus fixed on the handle. The door looked exactly the same as before, plain, unmarked, and completely silent. He reached out and touched it. The surface was cold. Not just cool, but unusually cold, as though it had been exposed to something far below the temperature of the surrounding air. Ethan pulled his hand back slightly, then tried the handle. It didn't turn. Locked. He knocked once. The sound echoed softly through the hallway, but there was no response. For a few seconds he stood there, listening. Then faintly, from the other side, he heard something. A movement, slow, deliberate, as though something had just shifted its position. Ethan stepped back. A quiet unease settled in his chest. The logical part of his mind searched for explanations, perhaps an apartment under renovation, or a hidden storage room he hadn't noticed before, but none of those explanations felt right, because the door hadn't been there the night before, and it wouldn't be there the next morning. That became the pattern. The door appeared randomly, always in the same place, always late at night, and always gone by morning. Sometimes it would be there for several nights in a row. Other times it would vanish for days before returning again. And each time it appeared, the feeling around it grew stronger. He began to notice that the hallway felt quieter when the door was there. The usual distant sounds, footsteps, doors closing, faint voices seemed to disappear. The air felt heavier, the light dimmer, as though the space itself had shifted slightly. And then, one night, something changed. Ethan was standing in front of the door, watching it, when he heard a sound that made him freeze. A knock, not from him, from the other side. 3 slow taps. He stared at the door, his breath held. The knock came again. 3 taps, then silence. Ethan didn't move. He wasn't sure what to do. Every instinct told me to walk away, but I turned the handle anyway. The door opened into nothing. No room, no furniture, just darkness and a faint flickering light from nowhere. The moment I stepped inside, the door behind me closed, and when I turned back, it was gone. That's when I saw them. Doors lining both sides of the passage, identical, closed, silent. Then I heard it, knocking. From behind the doors, not just one, many, growing louder, and then a voice, faint, calling my name. But it wasn't coming from ahead, it was coming from behind me, from where the door had been, and just before the light flickered again, I saw it.
This is Mythic Murmurs.